So Auburn goes to Athens. They're more competitive early, I think, than we have seen Auburn be in Athens for a while. But at the end of the day, 31-13 is your final. We're going to talk about it a little bit today on Village Vice. See Zach Blackerby. I'm Brad Law. Today's show brought to you by MyBookie.ag. They're going to double your initial deposit when you use promo code Next Round. Just like it says there at the bottom of the screen. Promo code Next Round. They will double that initial deposit. Take advantage of that. College football is wild. College football is crazy. NFL is pretty fun too. So check it out at mybookie.ag.
One thing I want to ask you about the game, Brad, and I want you to call me out if I'm being too negative or too cynical or, too whatever. Call me out on it. I'm asking for the accountability here.
Okay.
But the whole flow of Auburn, Georgia, I mean, it went how I thought it would. I thought Auburn might be a little closer at halftime. And, maybe instead of being down, they were down,
14-3.
14-3. Yeah, I thought they'd be down by 4 points or something like that. They got that touchdown in the second quarter to extend it out. But I thought it would be close at halftime, which it kind of was a few minutes before halftime. And then I thought Georgia would pull away, which is what happened. I just don't feel like we learned anything about this team in this road trip to Athens, going into the bowl game. It almost feels like it's a little bit wasted as far as the development of this team. Or did we just kind of confirm what we already knew? That just seems a little boring, but I don't know. I just feel like we didn't learn anything else about this team. Is that bad to say?
I don't know. I mean, how can you tell? How can you tell if that game helped later? If guys are making mistakes that ultimately they clean up in the second half of the season, then it's helpful. I don't know if you learn anything. It's like building a house. There are some days you go by a job site and you can very clearly see that work has been done. Right? You see there's walls up now. There's an external structure where there wasn't yesterday, and you can see.
Okay, hold on. You were a scientist last week, and now you're a general contractor? Is that what we're doing, Brad Law?
Right. I'm an architect. Vandelay Industries. That's me. Yeah.
How about that?
Other days, work gets done, but you don't see it. So you drive by the job site and you go, anything happened today? And you need somebody. You need the foreman to tell you, yeah, we did this and this and this. We worked on rivets or whatever today, and you can't see. So did you learn something? I don't know. I think we learned, Zach, and to your point, I think it just confirmed that just overall, there's improvement. There's more talent, but they're not at the point yet where they are routinely disciplined enough to be in the right spots, to make the plays or avoid the mistakes necessary to be in this game in the fourth quarter on the road. Now,
sure,
they haven't been in this game in the fourth quarter on the road in a long time.
Yeah. 20 years.
Yeah, they're not there yet.
Right.
They're not there.
The word that I've used on this show and other shows is composure. Auburn just doesn't have any composure whatsoever. And I honestly think the fourth and short where, Hugh Freeze talked about it after the game and said he ran something that, Peyton kind of went rogue or whatever. Okay. I think that play specifically is getting a little overblown, but for whatever it is, in big third downs, whether Auburn has the ball or they're on defense, or they're in a scoring situation, or it feels like it's do or die if you don't do something here, whether it's get a stop or score a touchdown, you're out of the game. This team just doesn't have that.
Yeah.
And I do think Auburn looked better against Oklahoma and Georgia than they did against Arkansas and Cal. I do think the team is better today than it was with the team that took Cal. I think Peyton Thorne's a better quarterback today than he was against Cal. It doesn't really matter when you look at the rest of the season. Now, there is an argument to be made. If Auburn plays like they did, can they go on the road to beat Missouri? Possibly. Can they go on the road to beat Kentucky? Possibly. Can they beat the juggernaut that is Vanderbilt at Jordan-Hare Stadium? Possibly. ULM, possibly. A&M at home, possibly. I still think all of this is on the table.
They're all winnable.
They are all winnable. And I don't know, like their performance against Georgia didn't make me feel better or worse about it. And it just kind of stinks because now we've got to wait 2 weeks to see this team play football again.
Well, and that's why I go back to a couple of weeks ago when I said I'm done trying to project 6 games in one show or or based off the previous 6. One week and one game at a time is about all that you can afford to put on the plate at this point. I thought it was interesting, and I know you said that this play is getting too much conversation. I tend to agree with you, but we haven't talked about it yet on this show.
Sweet.
And the 4th down and 1 out of a timeout. Like I had a long text conversation with some friends yesterday where they're like, well, I'm not sure if that's really what happened. I don't know if he really did call that. No, it's very clear. If you watch Jarquez and you watch Coach Freeze when the play ends, they both turn around and look at each other, arms out, palms up, like, what was that there?
Right.
It was clearly blocked for a dive up the middle. It was clearly wide open for a dive up the middle. And that one play doesn't give you the lead. All it does is extend your drive by at least one more play.
But at least it's a situation.
Yeah.
And I don't know if we're talking about that like, oh my goodness, because let's say Jarquez Hunter ran it for 2 yards or whatever.
Right.
The hole was large. It may have been more than that. Even if it's a 4 or 5 yard scamper or it's a conversion, whatever, that's great. But we're not like looking back at this game thinking, oh, Auburn showed a little bit of composure by converting what was a 4th down play, and maybe they lose by 20 instead of the amount, or 15, but
lose
instead
by
of the amount
18
that they
instead
did.
of 18.
Yeah, whatever. Thank you for the math.
Yeah.
But to me, it's like it doesn't change. Like we're not talking about that play if that doesn't happen. Like it didn't change the outcome of the game, but it does take some ammo away for the folks like me. They're saying this Auburn team has no composure whatsoever.
Yeah.
And like if you turn it into a scoring drive, like maybe it gives your defense a little bit more of a boost and you do keep it closer, but it's just when something can go wrong, it's going wrong, and they're finding different ways to do that. And a talking point is Auburn quit turning the football over.
And, I love what Hugh Freeze said. I love what Hugh Freeze said about that after the game too. He said, "Yeah, but we didn't win, and so we're not."
You also have turnover on downs. Like it literally has turnover in the name of it.
Well,
and it's weird that we don't count that,
right?
But I mean, that has the same outcome of if Peyton would have fumbled it, or if Jarquez would have fumbled it. Or if Peyton would have thrown a pick thrown, probably would have gotten you better field position than turning it over on downs in that situation. So
now instead of running it, we should have thrown it right there on 4th and 1. Is that?
I mean, you should have done what you did. That's not what I said. I think you need to hand it to Jarquez Hunter, like 5 times every 10 plays. You need to be giving it to him 5 times. I think at this point.
And at the end of the day, that remains one of the biggest questions that I have is there an adjustment offensively coming out of the idle week? Because Jarquez and Peyton have the same number of carries in this game. Now, that's not what was called, and I understand that. But if nothing else changes, if only that call is different, then Jarquez has 14, Peyton has 12. That's still not enough of a difference. Jarquez needs to have more than 26 carries or 25 carries in a 2-game span.
Yeah, and arguably, I mean, that Oklahoma game was arguably the most important game on the schedule. And you don't give it to the most important player on your team. It's just kind of
and more ammo. And I know this is being talked about. We're not the first ones to say this, but when the drive that got you back within 4 to open the second half, is 100% running plays. So, like a couple of those are Peyton scrambling, but a couple are also Peyton design runs.
Mm-hmm.
And then Jarquez caps it off with a 38-yard run that he broke a tackle at the line of scrimmage. He's going to break one tackle every time.
Pretty much. Yeah. If you get him in any sort of space whatsoever. Yes.
He's going to break. He just, so is there an adjustment to where you're calling and demanding that it's executed?
Yeah.
Called running plays or not? Or do you stick with the same formula, the same autonomy, the same checks, the same everything going forward?
Yeah, and I want to respond to that, but hey, let's give some love to our friends at Barner Supply Company.
Listen, go to barnersupply.com. Check out their hats, their shirts, their stickers, their koozies, all their gear. Put in promo code VillageVice when you buy a hat and a koozie. Promo code VillageVice, no spaces. The koozie will be free when you do that. We've had a couple of people do that just today. So you be the next one to do it at barnersupply.com.
Yep. All right. So a few of the things you said. All right. If they're going to pivot what they do schematically and from a game plan standpoint and a play calling standpoint with running the football more, and Jarquez is going to be the focal point of this, but Damari looked good. I mean, he's almost like he's carrying every ball like this, you know, because he don't want to fumble, which is fine. He's still so explosive, like it's fine.
4 carries, 22 yards, 5.5 per.
Yeah, you take that. You take that against this Georgia defense that's, you know, seen as one of the tougher defenses in college football. And you got Damari running for 5.5 a pop. You got Jarquez running for 7 and a pop. And it's just like, what is going on? Now, does that change a little bit if you run it more? Yes. But still, like if you're telling me Jarquez is still going to average 5 a pop, like let's just keep the ball. Keep the ball.
5 a pop at 24 carries is how many?
But here's where I push back on this. And I hate that I have this opinion, and I hope I'm wrong. I don't think the approach changes.
Yeah.
I don't think throughout this bye week and in 2 weeks when we see Auburn go to Columbia to take on Missouri, which I do think they have a good chance of winning. We'll do that pick next week, I guess. But I like Hugh Freeze as a coach.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a strength and a weakness to this. And all the good coaches have it. Is they so firmly believe in what they do as a process and as an end result and ideology. Hugh Freeze believes in his offense, and he's going to run his offense regardless of the strengths and weaknesses of this roster.
Yeah.
We've seen that up to this point. I can't imagine that suddenly changing because you lost on the road in Athens, a place where you haven't won in forever.
Yeah.
By about the score that everybody thought that you would. I can't imagine this is the wake-up call.
Yeah.
Where he's all of a sudden going to say, you know what? I'm not going to do what I've always done. This is the week I'm going to change it. I just have a hard time buying that, Brad.
Yeah, that's fair. I was prepared to say that Georgia did that with Trevor Etienne. That they didn't. His numbers were skewed coming into the game because they only had 5 carries against Tennessee Chattanooga or Tennessee Tech.
Right.
But he had 12 carries against Alabama. He had 16 against Auburn. They used him out of the backfield a lot more. He had 5 catches in 3 games coming into the game Saturday. He had 6 catches in the game Saturday. Maybe that's a tweak. Does Auburn get the ball to Jarquez out of the backfield a little more, like they did against Georgia last year in the regular season game? He got 1 catch this time for 16 yards. It was a big play.
Yeah.
So I don't know, but all you hear is, you know, and he had to quote again. Coach Freeze did again in the postgame conversation with on the radio, where he said, "Yeah, we ran the ball well. We could run the ball against anybody." And I've got to think that's really frustrating for all of the coaches and the players to know that you can.
And I understand the argument of Auburn is able to run the ball well because they were trot out the RPO and they run it when it makes sense to run it, when they've got the math is on their side. Like, I get it. I get the ideology. Sure. But in some situations, I don't care. I don't care. You brought in all these offensive linemen that are specifically good at run blocking, and they're not run blocking in key scenarios, in key plays. And ironically, the most discussed play of this game, the 4th and short, it sounds like it was a design run call, no matter what you give it to Jarquez Hunter. And I think we all agree that if he would have gotten it, it would have been a conversion, because you don't have to score on every play.
Right.
You don't have to score on 4th and short. You have to get a yard.
Yeah. And
Jarquez Hunter, all he has to do is get to the line of scrimmage and fall forward.
Yeah.
And have you seen how that guy is built? The guy falls forward. There's no debate about it. You don't have to score. And Freeze has talked about that with just overall like awareness of quarterback play and just the entire team. Is like, it doesn't always seem like It doesn't always seem like everything just fully makes sense as far as situationally. And I don't think you can fix that in a bye week, Brad. Like I just don't. A lot of Auburn's issues, I don't think you can fix in a bye week. I do think the things that you can fix in a bye week are personnel changes.
Yeah.
If you want to give more young guys a chance or reopen a few position battles, which I do think will happen. But you can't teach a team to be clutch in a bye week, or you would have done that during a week in fall camp. You would have taken a week of fall camp and say, all right, we're going to teach y'all how to be clutch this week. It just doesn't work that way.
Well, I mean, yes. And this was a game where despite a final tally of 18 points between the two teams, I am encouraged that there are only about 4 or 5 plays that make the difference between this game going one way or the other. Auburn doesn't get off the field on 3rd down when they've stopped them on 3 and out on their first drive of the game.
Right.
Just like Arkansas did, Georgia took advantage of that, and they went down the field. They scored a touchdown.
Yep.
In I think it was the 3rd quarter, 3rd or 4th. But they had a 2-score lead at the time. But they make the catch down on the 22-yard line. The clutch catch, and then Etienne runs it for, I think, 18 or so down to the 2, and they wind up scoring. But that catch, will Auburn make a catch like that in a moment like that where it needs some forward momentum? So you can feel like you're not swimming upstream, but you're swimming with the current, Yeah. Georgia's the 5th-ranked team in the country. They got a guy that makes that play, I think Auburn has guys that will make those plays eventually. We just didn't see them. Haven't seen them through the first 6
I think Auburn has guys who make that play now. They just don't have a quarterback that'll give them the opportunity to do it.
There were some opportunities, weren't there? I mean, he missed. He was a little long on a throw to Cam over the middle.
Yeah, and like Malcolm Simmons needs to make
a perfect throw.
But that doesn't change the outcome of the game at that point.
Yeah.
At that point, but you need to make those. No question. Yeah. No question. There was another one it was another freshman. It was Perry. Perry had one in the end zone. It was a 50-50 ball. The game was over at that point, but it's like, somebody make that play so we don't have to like argue for you to get more playing time. You just get it because you make those plays. And, at some point, like what you put on tape is who you are. So it's just, I don't know. It's a tough spot.
I am still firmly in the camp that those plays are coming. But this game showed us we sort of thought, we were hoping that it wasn't the case. I expected Auburn to play closer with Georgia than it did in the game. But there are times that I'm just a fan. Like I'm not really objective, believe it or not. But that Georgia has the kind of team, and they've been in those moments and they've been in those spots that they make those plays. And Auburn's just not there yet.
Right.
I think they'll get there.
Hey, look, if your team's not going to win on Saturday, you might as well look good when you cheer them on. Rowback.com can help you do just that. They've got their game day collection. They've got several Auburn shirts that look so good. Whether it's the step and repeat, is that the term of Jordan-Hare Stadium and of the old school Aubie. They've got the interlocking AU as well. I've got 2 of those, and I feel great in them. I don't know if I look great, but I feel great.
You look phenomenal. You look better than great.
Why, thank you.
You look like $1 million, but you're not going to pay $1 million.
No, you get 20% off. Rowback.com, RHOBACK.com. Use promo code VICE20 for 20% off. We've said this before. When you the 2 times I've ordered from Rowback, they have like a default code in there that's like their site-wide promotion. You got to remove that code and then use promo code VICE20 to make sure you get the full 20% off and it helps the show out. So just being blunt and honest, it helps us out when you do that.
That's right.
So check it out, rowback.com. Use promo code VICE20. Brad, I know you and I have different roles and responsibilities on Saturdays with you being on the radio call and me staying at home.
Yeah.
But your vantage point from like one of the craziest college football Saturdays in a hot minute.
It was interesting. Let me just be blunt. Okay.
Please.
Everybody hates Alabama.
Sure.
Everybody hates Alabama. So we're in the press box. There's a national radio broadcast wrapping up. Georgia's got their broadcast wrapping up. You got game operations people on the field. You got a lot of Georgia people on the field. The entire press box was watching Vandy's win over Alabama.
Wait, Vandy beat Alabama?
Oh yeah, beat them 40-35.
How about
Yeah.
that?
Kalen DeBose suffers his first loss as the head coach of the Crimson Tide. So
What'd you call him?
Kalen DeBose.
Wow,
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'd said that wrong, didn't I? I'm sorry. So everybody was watching intently and cheering, and it brought the entire press box together.
Yeah.
Because nobody likes Alabama. Outside of
and like Vandy is the most lovable loser ever. Like for them to do it, like that's such a great story.
Sure. Diego Pavia, the giant killer. Good for him.
Yeah. It's his world. We're just living in it this week. Like he can have it.
Crazy. They are, 3 wins at home. You no longer just stroll into Memorial Stadium in Nashville.
Not right now.
And think you're going to get a win. Now get them on the road. It's been different this year, but
that is a well-coached team. I've kind of like not been kind when talking about Clark Lee.
Yeah.
I was wrong.
Well, why would you be before this year? And I still have questions because if they don't have Diego Pavia and Jerry Kill, they don't have the offensive philosophy to stay on the field 40 minutes.
If we're going to criticize head coaches for not adding guys, we got to give them credit for adding guys,
I understand that, but like, doesn't Vandy and what it's doing this year show you that whomever went out to get Diego Pavia and Jerry Kill and add them to their staff was going to have market improvement this year?
Yeah.
So like, I'm still a little bit slow to give Clark Lee the credit for the Vandy turnaround because do they do it again next year? Do they bring in another person next year that can do what this guy can do? How many people can do what this guy can do? I don't know.
I don't know either.
But I know Vandy's 3-2.
Yeah.
And
what is that the most impressive win in college football right now? Or is what Bama did against Georgia more impressive? Or is what Texas did at Michigan more impressive? Or what Michigan did against USC more impressive? Probably
I think the Vandy win is more impressive because of the talent outside of the quarterbacks.
Mm-hmm.
It's closer in all of those other examples. I don't think the Alabama defensive line versus the Vanderbilt offensive line is a mismatch.
Mm-hmm.
The Vanderbilt defensive line against the Alabama offensive line is a mismatch.
Mm-hmm.
Everywhere else on the field is a mismatch, with all due respect to Vandy. It's a mismatch. But that quarterback changes it, and that philosophy changes what they're. Now, I say that. Their defense did some good things, too. Their defense had a strip sack, fumble recovery, and a pick six. And
pick six is pretty big.
It's massive. Gives them a 2-score lead very early. Their players start to play with a little bit of an edge.
And they just did something. Like we've seen these teams that are always ranked high, like the Bamas and the Georgias and Michigan. Over the last few years in Ohio State, like where you're about to pull the upset and you've been aggressive all game and you've got the lead.
Yeah.
And then with 5 minutes left to go, you just go into a shell.
Yeah.
And it's like, what are you doing? Like you haven't done this all game.
The difference was when they faced a 4th down and Alabama rushed Pavia and he's backpedaling and throws a touchdown off his back foot, falling
unbelievable
down, down from 30 yards out. Game was over at that point. I don't care what anybody else says. Game was up. Vanderbilt knew it could win the game at that point.
Yeah. Yeah. That's what having a quarterback that you believe in means.
Mm-hmm.
And like, you can say everything you want, but like those dudes rallying around that guy. We haven't seen that at Auburn since 13, 14. Did we see it in 17?
I don't know. I like Jarrett. I like Jarrett Stidham a lot. I don't know that they I thought they rallied around Carry-On more.
That was like Jarrett, a defensive football team, though. Like that team was good because of the defense.
And Carry-On and Ryan Davis and Jarrett Stidham. The Davis and Stidham connection was pretty strong.
Yeah,
but it
like
was
2-yard passes. But yeah, sure.
Yeah.
That's.
You're probably right about
that's what makes December so interesting.
Yeah.
It's like, is that guy on the roster? Like, does Freeze think this team can rally around their quarterback, whether it's Hank, whether it's Walker, whether it's Deuce, or do you go out and get one? Because at this point, like, you've got to.
And if you go out and get one, it's the conversation from last year too. Who's that guy?
And we just don't know yet.
We don't know
yet.
Right.
So, but crazy weekend in college football for sure.
To show how crazy it was, we got back from our drive and we listened to Arkansas's upset of Tennessee on the way back. Nobody talking about Arkansas and Tennessee today.
No, but that's a huge one.
It's huge.
That's a huge one. In fact, I was talking to my neighbor yesterday, and he's like, "Yeah, it was crazy." And he was listening to a few of the games, and I'm like, "You didn't mention the second biggest one." And he's like, "Arkansas beat Tennessee." Like, yeah, dude. Yeah.
On top of that, we got back around 11:30, I think, and I slithered into bed and I turned on Cal and Miami, and Cal's up huge. They get a pick six. It's like 28-10 at the time. And I go, my goodness, they are going to win this game. I'm not going to fight sleep. I'm gone.
Mm-hmm.
Had no clue that Miami came back and won the game. I mean, you'd never fathom that.
Yeah, so, that's a crazy. Arizona lost too, didn't they?
Who did they play?
I forget.
I don't know.
I forget. But I think that was an upset too.
I know that it did not.
They lost to Texas Tech.
Wow.
They lost to Texas Tech because coming off of that major win against Utah, it's just it was a crazy day.
1 week. All right. Again, if you learn anything from watching Village Vice, it's that 1 week has nothing to do with the previous week or the next week. Just because Alabama beat Georgia didn't mean a thing against Vanderbilt. Just because Arizona beats Utah or whoever, it doesn't mean a thing against Texas Tech. It doesn't mean a thing, man.
Yep.
1 week to the next. So,
hey, just real quick, our last note. It's been an awesome week over at the Barn. If you're watching, go ahead and subscribe on YouTube, but also visit thebarnauburn.com. We have had so much action there over the last week to 10 days with recruiting nuggets and reclassifications and all of that stuff. Info's hitting the Barn quicker than it's hitting anywhere else. So get ahead of the action. If you're watching this show, if you're caring about Auburn football at this point of the season during a bye week, the info that's on the Barn you want. So thebarnauburn.com. First month is $1. You kidding me? Are you kidding me? Brad, I think that does it for today's show.
It does. Thanks everybody for watching and commenting, liking the video. Remember, until next time, everyone has vices. Yes, they do. Everyone has vices. Make sure Village Vice is one of yours.